What's going on, people? Welcome back to Curtis Shaw TV, back with another live stream, and it's the day before match day, even though it's Thursday. Obviously, Arsenal play on Friday this week against Southampton, so you know what time it is. Press conference reaction, Cone Man music back in full effect. We'll hear from Arteta, latest team news on Saliba and Zinchenko, and obviously a little bit of transfer news as well. And we'll talk about Manchester City as well, as we always do, as we try and stay away from them, people. Listen, massive game for Arsenal tomorrow. On paper, looks like absolute light work. Top against bottom. You should be winning 4-5-0, but this is the Premier League and this is Arsenal. You know, it's never a straightforward script. I do expect us to win that game, but still, there are a few nerves there ahead of that game. Jeez, man is on time, people. Come on. You know what? I'm not going to lie. I might have been a minute late. But, you know, we're getting closer. But a lot of you saying I'm on time, so I'll take it. You know what? Forget it. I'm there. I'm on time. Not always there when you call, but I'm always on time. Yo, them old school tunes, you know, until 50 came along and mashed up Ja Rule, but there was hits back in the day. By the way, yeah, member stream 4 o'clock. Get yourself in. We'll be talking about the Premier League title running. So get yourself into the member stream at 4 o'clock. Hope to see lots of you on there. Big up, Big C. You were early for me. I'll take that all day long. Heard that tune today. You know we have to run it back, people. You know we don't mess about here. Alkin said he recently broke his ankle enjoying the sun today. Can I be cheeky and ask to be a moderator? Yeah, listen, I might look at the moderators actually, because a few of them are not as active now. Phone popped up saying now live. Thought I was bugging out. Big up, Big C. Yo, we made it, people. And Alkin, get well soon, man. Rest up that ankle, you know. And Upper Maguire. You know what? Let's talk about just briefly that Manchester City game last night, because I know a lot of people say, just focus on Arsenal, don't worry about Manchester City, blah, blah, blah. Forget that. Of course we're going to look at what Manchester City are doing. We have to see, are there any injuries? Are there suspensions? Is there fatigue? Is anything there that we can cling to and take a positive out of? Now, Manchester City went through last night. Obviously, they drew 1-1 against Bayern. Haaland, the machine, scores again, even though he missed a penalty. And they advanced to the next round of the Champions League. Now, for me, I actually don't mind that they got through last night, because I want them to be fully stretched when it comes to the amount of games they've got. And I think Real Madrid will test them far, far more than Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich, that was a poor Bayern Munich. You got Choupo-Moting up front. I mean, come on. He's shocking for that level. Real Madrid is a whole different kettle of fish, and the first leg is away from home. What City seem to like doing is playing at home, battering them, and then the second leg becomes pretty simple. Stupa Meccano, as Shaq says. What kind of defending was that? I thought Harry Maguire had gone there and played centre-back for Bayern Munich. Shocking. He might want to turn his social media accounts off, man. You've seen what happened after the first leg. He was horrendous yesterday. Slipped over. And we nearly paid about 70 million for him when Unai was the manager. Couple of positives I want to cling to, though. That Arsenal, listen, every little glimmer of hope we can get out of Man City, we're going to take it. So I am clutching at straws a little bit, but 2 little bits of hope for us. And happy 420 day, people, for those of you who celebrate. You'll be higher than an electric bill right now, let me tell you that. But 2 things we can cling to. Number 1, Manchester City now have to play every single midweek between now and the end of the Premier League season. Every midweek. The next 2 midweeks, they play Premier League games. One, of course, is Arsenal. The week after, they play West Ham. Then they got a couple of Champions League games. There's no midweek. Every 3 to 4 days now, Man City are playing. We got to hope that that has some sort of effect on them. I saw a stat yesterday. The most games that Haaland has ever played in a season in all competition is 40 games. Yesterday was their 41st game they've got 11 games left to play, potentially 13 if they get to the Champions League final and the FA Cup final. So he could be playing 54 games. Will that have an effect on this team at some stage? The second one, Nathan Ake pulls his hamstring. It's funny, we were talking about this the other day, saying Nathan Ake, probably one of their least, big names on paper, but he's been one of their best players this season. Pulls his hamstring, comes straight off. Aymeric Laporte has to go on at left back. Now, I remember Saka against Ake in the FA Cup game. He got pocketed by Ake. He totally handled him, to be honest. Laporte is not the same level as me. I think Laporte is a top player, but he's a centre-back. He's not as good at left-back as Nathan Ake. So, I know I'm clutching at straws a little bit here, but we got to take every little positive that we can. A lot of you saying that Rodri looked very tired at the end of the game as well. And we know that the likes of Haaland and De Bruyne, those guys have had quite a few muscular injuries over the last few years. So we'll see. We're clutching at straws. They are on fire. They do play Sheffield United on Saturday, and I think they'll win that comfortably. In the FA Cup, it's definitely clutching at straws FC though, Monts. I can't lie. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, I am, Oz. The optimism, I'm trying my best here. But yeah, apart from that, they're ridiculously on fire. A lot of you saying that Nathan Ake is not actually badly injured. So maybe he hasn't pulled it. Maybe he just felt a little twinge in his hamstring and that's that, people. But anyway, let's move on. Let's concentrate on ourselves. Big game for us tomorrow. As I said, on paper, it looks like a walk in the park. It looks as if we'll just batter Southampton tomorrow. But when does it ever work like that in football? They're fighting for their lives. If ever there was a game that you needed to pick yourself up for the rest of the season, this is the game that we need. The interesting thing is that when you look at the last two games, we could potentially have been 8 points clear of Manchester City at the moment, which would have been a big gap. However, it's 4 at the moment, so it just shows how important those last two draws are. But anyway, before we do get into looking ahead to tomorrow's game and press conference reaction, the Cone Man in full effect, let's talk transfer news. No more Wilfried Zaha links today, I can promise you, people. We will not be talking Wilfried Zaha on this show today, so you can relax. Woosah, no Zaha. But we are being linked with another winger today, a winger that a lot of you were saying in yesterday's show that you think we should be going for, and he's a very good winger. You'll have seen his name in the title, and that is man like Mitoma. Kaoru Mitoma from Brighton, 25 years of age, Japanese international, 8 goals, 5 assists this season. And he's being linked with a move to Arsenal this summer online today, people. Again, another winger that is better on the left, I would say, than the right. But he's a very good player. Tsunami said, I want Leroy Sané or Leao. We were speaking about the Rafa Leao links yesterday. You know my opinions on Leao. He would probably be top of my list in terms of wingers that I would like to see Arsenal go for this summer. I think he's an absolute monster. But it'll cost 80+ million, big wages. Will Arsenal go for him? I don't know. But Mitoma, he's done an interview. And he's talking about his close friendship with Tomiyasu, saying that those two, whenever they get free time, they meet up, usually in London. And he's saying how Tomiyasu has made it easier for him to settle in the Premier League. But then the problem with this straight away, like E. Ross is saying, we don't want to affect our friendship with Brighton. Oh, friends. Oh, football friends. Don't worry, Brighton. We'll walk away. We'll walk away from this deal at the last minute and go and sign Ryan Fraser or something like that. Do you know what I mean? When you look at, if anybody's seen a lot of the news, McAllister of Brighton is being heavily linked with a move to Liverpool at the moment. And I just don't think Brighton will sell, 2 or 3 big players in the same window, especially if they make European football. Are they going to let Mitoma, McAllister, and maybe even Caicedo all leave in the same window? I don't know. Chris said again with the Ryan Fraser Hey, the Scottish Messi, man. We nearly signed him at one stage. Mitoma's having a very good season. Now, Sack said that Mitoma is good but not elite. It's difficult, isn't it? Because we've only really seen him for one season in the Premier League. I wouldn't say that he's elite at the moment, but I have been very impressed with him, is what I would have to say. Now, a report today, ESPN stating that Arsenal are closely monitoring the situation of Kaoru Mitoma. They are aware of his close friendship with Tomiyasu and believe they could use Tomiyasu as a way to convince Mitoma to join the club. Now, Mitoma has 2 years left on his contract and he earns £20,000 a week, which, let's be honest, in Premier League terms and in Arsenal terms, is absolute peanuts. To put that into context, Alex Runarsson, possibly the worst goalkeeper in Arsenal history, is on £45,000 a week. I mean, how he got that deal, I will never know. But Mitoma's on 20 grand a week. Renarsson's on 45 grand a week. Offer him 60 grand a week. He's trebling his wages. He's going to be absolutely all over that. So let's do the first poll of the day, people. Now, just to put it into context, it's believed that Brighton want between 50 and 60 million pounds for a player that they signed for 2.5 million. 2.5 million they signed this guy for. Would you pay 50 million pounds for Kaoru Mitoma? So let's get the first poll up of the day. I suppose there's a tough situation, isn't there, with the wingers, that for 30, 40 million, you're not going to get a top winger unless their contract is running out. To get the ones that we're probably more excited about, you know, your Leaos and people like that, they're going to cost you considerable amount of money. Leao would cost you 70, 80, 90 million, even though he's got a year left on his deal. Maybe you get Leroy Sané for 50, 60 million. I don't know. Is Mitoma worth 50 million? Would you sign Mitoma for 50 million this summer? I want to know in the comments, people. I'm a little bit on the fence with it. I think he's a very, very good player. I'm just, I do like him. I'm just not sure if he's done enough to be worth 50 million yet. But nowadays, you know, a good 6 months and you're a 40, 50 million pound player. Look at Mudryk. He cost 88 million after 6 months in the Ukrainian league. So I'm not sure, you know. I like Mitoma, but I don't know if I get overly excited by this deal at 50 million. I don't know. But we'll see. Eze said Leao would be closer to 100 million. Yasin said get Caicedo instead. We need midfielders. Shaq said I can't even get excited about links anymore. Bro, I hear you. I'm with you on that. It's Arsenal, innit? You know, we get linked and then sign someone totally different. 35 to 40 top, says Marty. We'll take him because he's proven in this league, said Khalid. The man's wrote a thesis on dribbling. Yeah, didn't he go to like university and study football or something? Big up Seglu, said hi Curtis. Big up everyone locked in on Twitch, everyone on YouTube, C-Unit Business. You know how we move. 50 million is like $1 for the Cronkies. Get him. He doesn't act like that though, does he? He acts like it's it's going to break him. Richard Reed said, big up Big C, looks like a decent player at that price, but we need to strengthen in other areas. My thing is, and I agree with what a lot of you have said, if I'm going to Brighton with a big bag of money, I'm taking Caicedo before I take Mitoma. That's my opinion. Buy what you need before you buy what you want. We need a central midfielder. We want a winger to come in and push our wingers and create more competition. So if I'm turning up with 50, 60 million pound to Brighton, I'm topping that up and saying, give me Caicedo first. Once Caicedo's in the door or the centre midfielder's in the door, then let's have a conversation about Mitoma if that is somebody you want. One thing I think that we have to be careful of moving forward is I think that to win a Champions League nowadays, or to be successful, I think you need players that have got Champions League experience. So I think we're going to have to I think we need to sign a couple of winners this summer. I think last summer we signed 2 winners in Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, guys that had won trophies, that had got over the finish line in the Premier League. Mitoma is a very good player in my opinion. And if we signed him, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't have a problem with it because he's a very exciting player. But I think we need to sign a couple of players that have got Champions League experience. But as I said, if we did sign him, I have no problem with that deal. I do like him as a player. He's really impressed me this season. He's a fantastic dribbler, and probably can still go up another level. He's only 25 years of age, so I just wonder if he's worth £50 million. I know the modern game, 50 million is like the equivalent of probably 20 million. But I don't see Arsenal buying a centre mid for 70, 80 million. Let's say that's Rice. And then spending 50 on him. And there's still other things that we would need alongside that. So it's interesting. Sandy said, yeah, and here is why. He's in his mid-20s, mature, has adapted to the Premier League really well. Could end up being a powerhouse for us, which also brings in shirt sales. You know how much Arsenal love selling shirts. Is a good point. You know, they like to tap into different markets. Big up Guna Mutley TV, who said big up Big C. Don't we have a bunch of left wingers, says Bean. That's the problem. But most wingers you would expect can play on both wings. You know, you would like to think so. The days we paid 50 million for Ozil, now it gets you Mitoma. I mean, listen, 80 million got Real Madrid Cristiano Ronaldo when he was at the peak of his powers. Chelsea paid 88 million for Justin Bieber, a.k.a. Mudryk. The game has totally changed. Grealish cost 100 million. I know Grealish is having a good season, but I'm saying, like, the market has inflated massively. Chris said he's got the mentality, Kurt. It's got to have at least 4 starters in your lineup to teach the others. This is all about winning and not participating. For me, I think when you're in the Champions League, you've got to have players on the bench that are as good as the ones that are starting. It can't be a case of you start and you're 2 levels below and you go on the bench, because when those guys get injured, fatigued, suspended, you're bringing players in below that level. We found that issue over the last few years. We're finding it out right now with Saliba coming out, Holding coming in. The drop-off is extreme, even though he's not bad, but the gap is too big. With Tomiyasu and Ben White, similar levels. Zinchenko, Tierney, similar level, although their styles are different. You know, Trossard, Martinelli, similar level. That is what you have to aspire to if you're going to be successful moving forward in the Champions League and in the Premier League. That's why Manchester City have success. You know, they could pick that midfield or that defence out of a hat. It doesn't matter if it's Stones, Akanji, Laporte, Diaz. It's all gonna operate at a similar level. That's what we need. That's what we need to aspire to next season. Big up Black, your boy Fabio cost 30 million just for a diet experiment. Oh man like Fabio. In fact, I think he was 35 million. So yeah, to be honest, 50 million for Mitoma is probably not even bad. If Fabio cost 35. Chris said exactly, you can't have backups that are backups. And this is what I always say when people go, oh yeah, El Neni is a good backup. I'm like, nah, if you have that mentality, you end up relying on him and then he'll cost you at some stage, you know. Nick Taylor said, agree with expanding on the Japanese fan base. A Japanese friend of mine visited Brighton, didn't even watch a game just to see the town because Mitoma plays for them. Yeah, those things, you know, they look into that, don't they, these clubs? Mayo said we need Caicedo. Haroon saying Firmino. It's funny, somebody the other day said about Bobby Firmino, but I don't think Arsenal would get him. Apparently he's leaving Liverpool because he wants first team football. So there we go, people. Mitoma, 50 million. Let's end that poll. First poll of the day. 67% of you saying that you would pay 50 million for Mitoma. 33% saying no. I think one thing's for sure, we can all agree he's a very talented footballer, and I listen, I think he could come to Arsenal and definitely do a job for us. That is for sure. So yeah, Firmino and Mane, what are you saying? Just run back the whole Liverpool front three. I saw a story yesterday that Bayern Munich are prepared to sell Mane in the summer. I think he's past his best, on big wages as well. I mean, Sadiq says Firmino was done. He scored against us 2 weeks ago. I don't think he is done, to be honest. Wasim said, next poll, would you take Zaha? We all know it's coming. I'll put that one on the community one. Nah, listen, don't worry about Zaha. I don't think that one's going to happen, personally. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on from Mitoma. And listen, if you're peckish, it's just a bit later than lunchtime. It is that time again, people. The Cone Man is back in full effect. Cone Man music is back. Waffle settings are here, people. Get the syrup ready. Last week was one of the funniest press conferences we've probably ever done last Friday. But since drawing with West Ham, all the laughter has gone. We need to get back to business now. I thought West Ham was going to be the bounce back game, struggling team, near the bottom of the league. We'll win this game. We'll put the pressure back on Man City. All we did against West Ham is put the pressure back on ourselves even more. If we do not win this game, I don't care if we're above them on points. I don't care, games in hand, whatever you want to say. If we do not beat Southampton at home, it's done, dusted, over. Game, set and match. Roger Federer, 6-love, 6-1, 6-2. We have to win this game. And not only that, I think we need to put in a decent performance as well, because realistically, we've dropped off in the last 2 weeks. Those two results would have hurt that team. You're 2-0 up, you think you're winning that game. That's probably the reason we didn't win those games, because we thought we'd won those games. They have to win, and they need to put in a decent performance. We're back at home. The fans will be there. 60,000 Friday night. Everybody will be watching. We need to show people that we're serious, that we can bounce back. Smash Southampton, and then we know what time it is on Wednesday evening, people. It's like a cup final on Wednesday. We need to handle business. And I always say these games can be dangerous. They can. Like I said, on paper, West Ham, they're stinking out the place. But these teams at the bottom of the league, when they're fighting for their careers, you got to understand some of these guys will have clauses in their contract that will say you're going to lose 20-30% of your wages if this club is relegated. Like, when people are fighting for their finances, it's serious, people. But if we turn up and we play properly, I expect a comfortable victory. I'm going to be honest. Southampton have been very, very poor this season. Elvis says, big up to you, Big C. I'm fed up when they say we can't afford to spend big money like Man United, Chelsea and City. We are one of the biggest clubs in the world with a massive fan base. Go on, you Gunners. You're spot on, but it comes down to the ownership. Doesn't matter how rich you are. It's about how much money the rich guy is willing to spend. That is the issue. He's worth double what Todd Bowley's worth. But look at the way Chelsea are throwing money around. So we have to win this game. And I want to see a good performance. I don't want it to be a stressed out watch-along. Ward-Prowse and them, man, there. Just keep him away from the free kicks and let's handle business. If he starts waffling, we're skipping it, The smiles disappeared, Now it's just a little grimace, 2 weeks ago, pre-Liverpool, he was smiling. Not smiling at the moment, but not a hair out of place. I see the hairs, the eyebrows. He's had a shave. It's a home game. He wants to show us he means business. I'd love to see Arsenal batter Southampton. I'd love to see a 4-5, 6-0. Show them that we mean business. Score goals. Let's rip them apart. Theo Walcott there as well. Yeah, that's another one. It's always interesting when an old player's coming back. On the team news, he said there's no big news. The picture hasn't changed from last week. Regarding William Saliba, we still have to wait a little bit more. He's not progressing as quickly as we hoped, and it is a bit delicate, so we want to be certain that when we push him, he's ready to absorb the load and that the risk we'll take, and that's not possible at the moment. Now, I'm going to be totally honest. I said yesterday, if you could get Saliba to 75% plus, that I would risk him against Manchester City, because a Saliba at 75% is better than a Rob Holding at 100%. If what he's saying is true here and he's not playing mind games with Pep, I think at the moment he's going to be struggling to play against Man City. In my opinion, he could be playing mind games. Could be all part of the evolution of Mikel Arteta, and he's going to throw a curveball to Pep and he pops up on Wednesday night in the starting lineup. From what we've seen at the moment, Saliba hasn't even trained with the first team yet. He's not even back on the pitch yet. He's still in the gym, which sitting on a bike and pedaling is not the same as running around playing football and jumping and changing direction. And this is a bad injury. It's a bad injury. Back injuries are bad injuries in football because they're very unpredictable. And when you play football, you put a lot of strain on your back with changing direction and jumping and running and things like that. I mean, it's Thursday today. You're talking about 6 days for him to recover and play in the biggest game of the season. I'm not even sure you can get him to 70-80% by next Wednesday. That's my opinion. I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope Arteta is holding back the truth, and maybe he's training on the grass today and they're not showing pictures. I don't know, but it's not looking good. It's looking like Bob Balding against Haaland at the Etihad, and if that is the case, then pray to whoever you need to pray to, because we'll need some spiritual guidance to get through that. On whether Saliba will play again this season, he said, I don't know. It's a bit early to know. Probably next week we'll have more certainty. There is some evolution. He's doing more activity, but he's not there yet to start to throw him into the pitch at the level the sessions demand to compete in this league. Wow. I mean, that is worrying. That is seriously what. Not only are we now talking about will he play against Man City, Arteta is now saying, I don't know whether he'll play again this season. And a lot of you have been saying this in the comments over the past few weeks, that, listen, some of you have been saying Saliba could be done for the season. If you don't play him against City, I mean, you might have to just leave him. At the end of the day, I know this is a massive contradiction to what I said yesterday, but I was referring to the fact that if you can get him to 70-80%, I would risk him. If he's lower than that and you can't get him back fit, you might as well just write the season off for him. If you can't get him for these games, because we do have to look after him long term as well. Like I said, I hope this is a curveball, and on Wednesday he's in the starting lineup and he's training on the pitch today, and they just don't show the pictures because they only show you in the pictures what they want to show you. That's the reality of the situation. He could be in training today, but it's not looking good. Yeah, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Arsenal could have given him the operation after Sporting Lisbon. They've delayed the surgery to try and get him back for the end of the season. If you then don't get him back for the end of the season, you've delayed the surgery by over a month when he could have already been recovering. You would think by now, with the amount of time that he's had, these doctors, these specialists, these physios, they need to say, listen, he's not going to play. Get him on the operating table and get him ready for the start of next season. But only time will tell. We're speculating at this stage. We don't know, but it's definitely not looking good. It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good. I'm telling you, and I say it all the time, Arteta needs to earn his bread. £8.5 million a season. Surely it's not just as straightforward that Saliba's out, play Holding. You've got better options than that, in my opinion. Play Zinchenko at right back and play Ben White at centre back with Gabriel. I would say that Haaland is the bigger threat than Grealish, so make sure we're stronger there. Play free at the back or do something different. Yeah, Jake, I ask the question all the time, and that's what I would have asked in this press conference. Mikel, you signed Jakub Kiwior for 25 million or whatever it was in January to come in and cover. Why is he not playing ahead of Rob Holding at this stage when you've got injury there? Or go to a back three. Play White, Gabriel and Tierney. That is a solid back three to me. Then the issue becomes, who do you play wing back? I suppose you play Saka wing back. Can Martinelli play wing back and cover that side? I don't know. But I think he's got to do something. But we'll see. We'll see. I think he'll just go Rob Holding. I think he'll trust Rob Holding. He loves him. The Kiwi is still raw. It definitely is, people. It definitely is. On Zinchenko's fitness, I mean, you've seen this in the headline of the title. I haven't heard what he had to say, but I saw the headline. He said, we'll see about that one. It's not certain. It's a muscular injury and it needs some time to heal, and we're not there yet. I mean, again, is he trying to throw a curveball? But I don't think you need to throw a curveball for Southampton. Zinchenko was seen training yesterday. He was in the training pictures. Now, sometimes what you have to understand with these training pictures, and I've seen these even at the levels that I've played, they'll take a picture of parts of training, they'll put the pictures out, and we all go, yes, Zinchenko's back. What we don't see is that sometimes there'll be a part of the session where he's training. They'll take pictures, throw them online. He may not do the rest of the session with the group. So he may not be fully fit. And by the sounds of it, I mean, the game is tomorrow. And the manager's saying it needs some time to heal and we're not there yet. Now, for me, you cannot be risking Zinchenko if he's not 100% fit. No disrespect, we're playing against Southampton. We should be able to beat them without Zinchenko. We need Zinchenko for that Manchester City game. So for me, I'm definitely not risking Zinchenko against Southampton, especially with a muscular injury that can just go again like that. So I would not be playing Zinny. It's just interesting that... a lot of the reports yesterday were saying he trained and he was back and he was going to play. But as I said, they only tell you what they want to tell you. Fitz is back. The door's been kicked off. Kapow! Shotgun out. Arteta doesn't have the tactical know-how. He's no George Graham. Shots fired. Fitz is in the building. Big up yourself. It's one of the things he needs to show, in my opinion. He needs to show that he's got the tactics. I think his substitutions in the last 2 games have not been great. It's a learning curve, but he needs to learn quick because we're going up against a machine in Manchester City. Elliot said, nyamming waffles, sipping syrup, needing that Southside win with that Cone Man music. Listen, man, we have to win tomorrow, bro. Fitz is at OG. The clip is empty. 2 left-footed centre-backs is crazy, let alone 3 left-footed centre-backs. Surprised it's coming from you, Kurt. It's an ex-professional. No one does that. I mean, first of all, I said, if you play a back 3, you can quite easily play 2 left-footed centre-backs because one plays in the middle, so it doesn't affect him if he's left or right-footed. And then you play one to the left, which would be Tierney on the left, Gabriel in the middle, and then you would have Ben White on the right. That's pretty simple. If you play a back 4, I don't buy into this thing that you can't play 2 left-footed centre-backs in a back 4. You know, Vidic and Ferdinand were both right-footed. You know, nobody said it when there's 2 right-footers, so why can't you play 2 left-footed? So I didn't say 3 left-footed centre-backs, 2 in a back 3. That is what I would do if we went to a back 3. If you go to a back 4... yeah, I get what you're saying because Zinny would be at right back, Tierney at left back, and then Gabriel in there. But I think that's overhyped. I think you can get away with it. City had Kyle Walker, Cancelo, and Diaz, and sometimes Stones in a back 4. They had 4 right footers in the back 4. So I don't buy into that. Oh, you can't have more than 1 or 2 left footers. Make it. I'd rather see a left footer there than Rob Holding, especially if he's a good left footer. As for, he's nice and confident. He said, Curtis, you can play a back 9, but Man United will smash 5 past us. They are that good. Crazy. Well, we'll see. We live in hope, my friend. We live in hope. DJ Ash, big up, Curtis. Hope you're good. Doesn't look promising for Saliba. Saliba! Sound like Beyonce. To the left, to the left. Dear. And Patrick said Torre and Campbell were both right-footed. Listen, man, you can make it work. You can make it work, surely. I think the reason people say that, though, and I'll be honest, to add balance, usually for some mad reason, right footers have a decent left foot. A lot of time, left footers are very one-footed and not as good with their weaker foot. So that's why they seem to have this narrative, you can't have a left footer on the right-hand side. But, you know, I suppose it's different with each and every player. So Zinny doesn't sound like he's going to play against Southampton either. On Saka's response to missing the penalty, he said that's the way he is. He loves the responsibility, but as well, he puts a lot on his shoulders. If he had any doubt about how much people loved or respected him and admired him, he had an overwhelming reaction from everybody in the building and the club. I think at the end, it can be something positive that can be a big lift, because everyone reacted in an unbelievable way towards him. He deserves it of the way he is. This is an interesting one. On whether he will continue to take penalties, he said, yes, if he is on the pitch, we will throw him the ball and just make sure he takes the next one. Now, that is interesting. That he's going to take the next penalty. Now, I think what we have to do and what we have to be careful is that was the first penalty that he's missed for Arsenal, right? He scored all of his penalties for Arsenal. Obviously, he missed the England penalty, but that's neither here nor there in terms of Arsenal. I think if you consistently score your penalties and you miss one, you've probably still earned the right to take another one. It's just that the stakes are so high at the moment. Part of me feels like if we got a penalty against Man City, I'd give it to Gabriel Jesus. But Saka's probably going to take the next one again. And there seems to be a funny thing at the moment. Left footers are missing penalties. Salah missed a penalty. Giroud missed a penalty yesterday. And now Saka's missed a penalty. There's a few left footers missing penalties at the moment. So he'll take the next penalty. I always get nervous when a player's missed a penalty and then takes the next one. Because there's a lot of psychological. Penalties are very psychological. But he's going to take the next penalty clearly from what he's saying. So Jesus going to have to probably, wait for another one. Yeah, Ivan Toney missed one and took the one in the next game as well and scored that one. Big up Bergkamp's son, Waffle Settings. Big up Big C. Keep doing what you're doing. Big up to the community as always. I actually think left footers tend to be more naturally two-footed, in my opinion. Interesting. I think when you've looked over the years, there's been some left footers that are very left-footed. You know, Robben and players like that. They seemed almost one-footed, but that one foot was just like unbelievable. Let's continue with the waffle. On what he has said to people who have written Arsenal off, he said, nothing. I cannot communicate enough here properly. What I can say is that our players have full belief. Let's skip it. On how confident he is, the team can refine confidence. He said, I'm very confident. Twists and turns are part of anything you do, especially in football. Let's skip. On what he learnt from the draw at Southampton, he said, hopefully we are in a better place. It is true. That game had very critical moments. I remember that game. We should have won that game. Yeah, you're right. Saka and Odegaard, actually, their right foot seemed decent. But in some, I suppose it's circumstantial. There's been some left footers anyway that have seemed very left footed. But Holding is neither footed, said Harry. He's got good hair, though. He's got good hair. No, most left footers are very left footed. I agree. Let's skip this. Southampton away. We remember that game. We should have won that game. On what he knows about Ruben Selles, who is the coach of Southampton, he said, I know people that work with him in Valencia. When I was there, and obviously I followed his career, I know the type of coach he is. On how his players are feeling physically, he said, my players today are really looking forward to tomorrow to get to the game we want and the result we want and to play in front of our home crowd. There are 7 games left. We have 4 games to play at the Emirates, which is for them a big thing, and we're looking forward to it. We always feel a bit more comfortable at home, don't we? Anthony is very left-footed. Chris said, I'd rather have Rob Holding than Maguire. Both equally as bad, I would say. Eros says Di Maria. Very left-footed as well. Robben's left foot was unbelievable. Everybody knew what he was going to do, but no one could stop him. 100%. 100%. Imagine if Bob Boulding grabs the winner against City, bro. That will be green screen. I'll probably get his name printed on a shirt just for banter. You know, just for the channel. But anyway, let's hope that's a problem that we have. So he says the players are feeling good. On the atmosphere he's expecting, he said it Friday night it has to be electric. On whether the team can show what they have learned, every game is an opportunity to improve. On whether it will be similar to facing West Ham, he said, yes, because the necessity of those teams is one thing, but the quality of those teams is something as well that you have to understand. They're fighting for their lives. On how he takes away Southampton's belief, he said, with more determination and passion, what we are playing for is something incredible. On how he can coach some nastiness into the players, he said, maybe we got too comfortable. Yeah, shameless sayings. Maybe we got too comfortable at some stage in the West Ham game. He said it's different. They know. I don't have to coach them. They said it straight away. They know. It's in their system. It's in the gut. And tomorrow we have to show it. Sometimes we need to say it. Now we have to show it. When it comes to the similar position, react in a different way and be much more ruthless. Idris said, I missed his super chat. Apologies. Question is Kivior better than Holding? Not for me. At this stage, it's very difficult to say. He looked shaky against Liverpool. Didn't look great in the Europa League. I'm not saying he's a worse player than Rob Holding, but I just don't think he's ready for that kind of game at the moment. Which says a lot about the signing, which is why I questioned it at the time. Should we not have just signed a ready-made centre-back that's better than Holding, that could have stepped in? And for 20-odd million, I think if you were smart enough and your scouts did their job, you could have found someone. So, yeah, he said, maybe we got too comfortable. How difficult it is to remain focused on this game. He said, that's it. That's the conversation we had. He's talking about what is going to happen next Wednesday. As fans, we're all kind of focusing on that City game. As players, they can't afford to do that. Otherwise, everything's mashed up if you start thinking about City. On taking each game as it comes, he said, each ball, he said... on what he learnt from the end of last season. In fairness, the way that season unfolded was very different. It's very difficult to compare. Every game brings challenges and opportunities. On whether this season has been a success, whatever happens, he said, we are Arsenal Football Club. The success is judged on the last game of the season. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation at the moment. Big up Monts, who said he's listening while cutting the grass. Big up yourself, bro. Got to do it when the sun's out, man. There's a real conversation at the moment saying, if Arsenal don't win the Premier League, is this season considered a failure? Or is it still success because of the progress going from 5th place to 2nd? I think the answer is probably somewhere in between the two. I think sometimes as Arsenal fans, we do it as a coping mechanism, that if we feel like something has gone wrong, we cling to the positives, which, listen, is admirable in some sense, but sometimes you need to also be demanding. Now, we can all use the narrative that at the start of this season, finishing top 4 would have been seen as success for Arsenal. We'd finished 5th. We won a Champions League. That was the target. However, the season has developed and moved on. We didn't expect Chelsea to be that bad, Liverpool to be that bad. Opportunities have presented themselves. We've been top for 3/4 of this season. For me, if we finished 2nd at the end of this season, it would be extremely disappointing. There's no doubt about it. I think it would also be... I think what also makes it worse is the fact that we wouldn't have won any trophy in the season, which is why I think they took a big risk, just kind of letting the Europa League go and letting the FA Cup go, because I think if we'd have finished 2nd and won the Europa League, we haven't won a European trophy for 30 years, you could have got something out of that. Unfortunately, when you play for a top club and you don't win a trophy, nobody remembers that season. And that's the harsh reality of football. Think about Liverpool in 13-14, was it, when Gerrard slipped over. They battered us 5-1 that season. They blew that league away, but they didn't win the title. Nobody ever talks about that Liverpool team because they didn't win the league. And the sad thing, what I hope doesn't happen for this team, because this team have been so good this season that if they don't win the league, nobody will talk about this team in 5 years' time, which is why it's like I desperately want them to win the league so that they get that acknowledgement that they've won the league and they go down in the history. Have we progressed this season? 100%. We've gone from finishing 5th, and we all know how painful that was last season, no Champions League, to challenging one of the greatest Premier League teams in the history, this Man City team of the past probably 7-8 years. However, you didn't win a trophy. 2nd, does it mean more than 3rd or 4th? Ultimately, you get the same thing, which is Champions League qualification. So for me, the disappointment would be if we finish 2nd that we didn't win a trophy. So for me, the truth is probably somewhere in between both questions. you have to say that being top of the league for that long and then losing it, there is a massive element of failure there. Whether you like that or not, that's part of being at the top. You know, you're there to be shot at. And it would hurt massively because, look, we haven't won we haven't won the Prem since this guy was holding this one up. Equally, we would also have to acknowledge that the club have made huge progress from last season. But, you know, it would still be so disappointing that we didn't win a trophy at all. If we finish second, who's had a better season, United or Arsenal's Big C? Big debate. This is going around a lot. If United finish third, have they had a better season than Arsenal? If Arsenal finish second. I'm going to be totally honest. I think United have had a better season. I think they have. If those circumstances happen, I think they've had a better season. Because football is about winning trophies. That's the aim of sport at any level. I want to win a trophy. You remember trophies. They go in your cabinet. That's what we all say about Harry Kane. Okay, you finished second, you finished third, you got to the Champions League final, you won the Golden Boot. You didn't win anything. If you're a player, and I said to you, you can play for your club this season at any level, and you finish third and win the League Cup, or you finish second and win nothing, where would you rather play? I would rather win the trophy, get to a final at Wembley and win. That still has to mean something. Second, third, and fourth, to me, in my opinion, is the same thing in the Premier League. What does second get you more than fourth? It gets you a little bit more credit. Because, okay, you had a better season, but you get the same prize as third and fourth. You get Champions League qualification, you get no trophy. I think in football, nowadays, we're too dismissive of trophies. In my opinion, I think we're too dismissive of trophies. At the end of the day, when you start a season, you can only win 4 trophies, right? Your European one, your League, and then your League Cup and your FA Cup. We haven't won the Premier League for 18 years. We haven't won a European trophy for 30 years. So you can't then just dismiss those other 2 and say that they don't mean anything. Yeah, you get an extra 20 million, but we're not going to see the effects of that. That ain't going to make a big difference to us. So, and it's the harsh reality. I'm sorry. Nobody remembers who finished second. Who finished second the year Leicester won the title? We finished second. But no one cares. We'll never talk about that. It don't mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing that we finished second that year. Because Leicester created history and won the title. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer finished second. No Man United fan cares. Because Man City won the league. Jose finished second. No Man United fan cares. Liverpool finished second under Brendan Rodgers. No Liverpool fan will care. Harsh reality, people. Very harsh reality. Not everyone will agree. I can see some of you in the comments saying, no, I don't agree. Blah, blah. Some of you do agree. But football is about trophies. Where was this energy when we won the FA Cup? Do you know the difference? We won the FA Cup and finished 8th. That's the difference. We were non-existent in the league that season. So winning the FA Cup was brilliant, but we'd crumbled in the league. If you get top 4 and win a trophy, that's a solid season. It is a solid season. Of course, we've had a solid season, but football is about trophies. It is about trophies. We all remember winning those FA Cups and those days out, Sadiq said, Curtis, the entire season, rivals told us City would win based on the past. The Premier League title race is worth more for the future than a Carabao Cup. We can build on the experience, the same as missing out on top 4. Hopefully. I hope we do. I remember when we won that FA Cup, and I said, "Wow, we won the FA Cup. We didn't really build on that first year. It took us a couple years before we responded." But I know what you're saying. It feels like we've made huge progress in terms of challenging for the league, and they do deserve a lot of credit for that, even if we do miss out. But still, I think that football, if you play for a big football club, you have to win trophies. You have to. Big C, Wenger brainwashed us and the league. He did. He created this narrative that 4th was a trophy. Now, don't get me wrong. 4th is important for the progression of your football club. We've seen players reject Arsenal because we have no Champions League football. So you need to be in that Champions League. You need that top 4 place. But alongside that, there needs to be success. If you can't win the league, for me, get a trophy, win an FA Cup, win a European Cup. We're very dismissive of the Europa League when we haven't won it for a long time, which is why I was disappointed that we let it go. But it's a good debate. It's an interesting debate. Thank you for the interaction. A lot of you are making comments. As much as I love Wenger, he's the reason a lot of current fans have a no trophy mentality. Yeah. You can't turn down trophies when you're not winning other. If you don't win nothing, you can't be dismissive of trophies, you know? Sick of top 4, win a trophy, said Eros. I mean, ideally, do both would be my aim. If you get top 4, you're one of the best 4 teams in the country, which is great. You're in the Champions League. You've got the extra money. You can get better players. But equally, I think you should be winning a trophy alongside that. That's the biggest show of progression is the trophy cabinet. Endo will be better in all comps. How about a bit of belief, people? Tired of so many doing the math, counting on losing at City. If we are a deserving champion, go there and win. That's what we got to do. It's show and tell, LSU. It's show and tell for these Arsenal players on Wednesday night. You're playing in the... I know we're looking ahead of the Southampton game in, but Wednesday night is the biggest game of the season. And it's time for the players to show what they're about. No more talking. No more adverts. No more merch pictures. No more press conference. Show and tell. Go to Man City and get a result. And show the fan base that we are worthy of winning this title. That's what it's about. They've done it in the years where they've won titles. Won at Old Trafford. Won at Tottenham. You know, won at difficult away grounds. Won at Anfield in '89. So it's no more talking. You got to beat Southampton. You got to go to City and do a result. We are trending in the right direction, but if we don't win the Prem, there will be massive pressure on Arteta to deliver next season. 100%. 100% there will. But anyway, let's get back to the press conference. That was a nice little side topic to discuss because a lot of people have been talking about it, you know. Want to be the best, you got to beat the best. 100%. On Holding and Tierney's contribution... That's interesting how they've been grouped together. He said their contribution is huge. First of all, the way they behave around the team, how patient they have been, and when they have to play, what they have produced in terms of performances. Now they are playing more games, they're playing more minutes, and will continue to do so. I told you, man, Holding's going to start against City. This is why you need top quality players with the right mentality to be ready when you need them on the pitch. And when you are not using them that much to contribute in the team in the right way, those are 2 great examples of that. I think you're capping a little bit there, Mikel. I can't lie. I give you your flowers when they're due. I give you your criticism when it's due. But you're definitely... This is why I call it waffle settings. I'm not quite sure we can call... Rob Holding a top quality player, but you got to look after your players. I know how the game goes. He's not going to come out and start disrespecting him, of course. But I think it's a bit of a stretch to call him top quality. On their attitude, they are both great characters. They are really liked among the players. They bring that special energy to the team, and I'm really happy to have them. Great guys, as I said, nice guy, Rob Holding, but is he good enough? Did Arteta just say Holding is a top quality player? I think he did, Ivan. I think he did. Holdylocks, they're calling him. Reality is they were never going to beat City to the title no matter how many points we had in hand. Well, we'll see. There's a long way to go. A bit of cap from Arteta, that is for sure there. Let's move on. I don't know how long this press conference is. On whether Saka can brush off the disappointment easier after the Euro final penalty miss. He said experience helped. What he went through was tough, but in a different way, it was beautiful and a great experience for him. I think that helped him, not only him, but the people around him. Let's hope he scores his next penalty. On whether there is a concern at the pressure of a title race, he said, I wouldn't like to compare with City. We have to focus on what we have to and the reason we have dropped those points. On Ainsley Maitland-Niles' future, wow, that is a curveball. That is definitely a curveball question. He was a really important part, and he's a player with incredible versatility that has played in many different positions for different reasons. Some professional, some personal. He had to move around in the end. At the end of the season, we'll sit down and decide what is the best thing for everybody moving forward. Does Ainsley Maitland-Niles have a future at Arsenal? I mean, I would be surprised, but he does have a year left on his contract. On whether we have been disrespected by the media, he said, these are the opinions and in the end we have to respect it. When you set standards and expectations, it's hard. You have to maintain them and you have to win every single game in the Premier League. It's difficult. On whether Gabriel Jesus is ready to play 90 minutes, he said, we'll see. We've been really careful. There have been some issues within that period when he was doing the final stages of rehab. We have to be really attentive. We have players that can change the game, that are fully fit, that deserve to play as well, and we have to be mindful. Interesting that he says, he's had some complications towards the end of his rehab, as he's been taking him off a lot lately as well. Ainsley, get him back. I don't think we can. You could have played him at right back, couldn't you? And Ben White centre. On Thierry Henry's comments that we're too emotional, he said, I don't know. It's just an opinion. Oh, you better tread carefully there, Mikel. Don't disrespect the king, Don't disrespect Thierry. No, he went easy. He went easy with the answer. I'm sure he would have liked to have said more. Thierry said that we've played the last 2 games with too much emotion. And he says that, when you want to win the league, you have to almost remove emotion from it and just handle business, which I think you see a lot of the time with Man City. There's a ruthlessness about them. That's why I call Haaland a robot. There is no emotion. It's just, I am Haaland. I will score goals. The man is literally a robot. He just scores all the time. So Henry said we're a little bit young and a little bit emotional. Bleck said second means we restart again with more games and pressure on no squad. 1 goalkeeper. We'll see. Will we take in the pressure and not fall off? Can we, Big C? Listen, I'm still backing the team that we can win the league, but we're in a much more difficult position than we were in 2 weeks ago. That is for sure. Henry's comments were fine. The press clipped him. It was real talk. Yeah, he explained it in much more detail, but you know how they go, man. On whether he wants us to be more ruthless, he said, you have to be when you have a big situation to score a goal. Let's get through this now. He's more than waffling. On whether playing City for the first time in 6 weeks is an advantage, I don't know. In the last 6 weeks, a lot has happened. On whether there are issues with the scheduling, he said there is something there, but our game with Chelsea has been moved. That is to affect our weekend right now, and things will turn around. So it is what it is. I mean, we can't talk about the schedule. City are playing every 4 days. On whether there's frustration, the Chelsea game was moved, he said, no, there's no frustration. On Smith Rowe's progression, last question, he said, he's pushing. In football, what you did a year ago, a month ago, is not important. It's about what you do now, what you do yesterday, and what you do tomorrow. The player has to have that mindset, and the contribution has to be now to the team. He has to make us better and has to make us win games. He's very close. I mean, Smith Rowe's been on the bench for over a month, and he's hardly kicking a ball. There has to be something there with his mentality. Maybe he's not ready to contribute yet. Are you fit, bruv? Clearly not. Emil Smith Rowe. Jashar said, big up Curtis Haaland Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. The brother never stopped scoring, man. He's just a beast. He's a monster. Chris said, which Liverpool front three was better? Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling, or Salah, Mane, Firmino? Both very different. I feel like the Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling one was more exciting, if I'm being honest. I think there was more flair in those three. They had more success with the Salah, Mane, Firmino one, so it's difficult. As an outsider, I think the Sterling, Suarez, and Sturridge one was better to watch, if I'm being honest. Would you replace Arteta with Henry? Nah, Henry is way too emotional to be a manager. He's squaring up to players at Monaco. Before we round up, South London's finally said, yeah, the Triple S one. That was just brutal. That you couldn't get away from that one. They were too much. What team plays tomorrow night? I think they'll play exactly the same team, actually. I didn't even plan this, but I think they will play exactly the same team that played against West Ham. Rambo in goal. It'll be Gabriel at centre-back. Holding will play again, in my opinion. Who will play Ben White at right-back. Tierney will play at left-back, in my opinion. It doesn't sound like Zinchenko is going to be available. I think Tierney plays again. I think he'll go Saka and Partey, even though Partey had a very poor game after that first 20, 30 minutes. Odegaard will play. He'll be captain. It's at home. A lot of talk about Saka. And a lot of you were saying this. Let's get a poll up. Let's finish with a final poll. Would you rest Saka against Southampton and play Trossard? Would you rest Saka against Southampton? That is my final question in terms of a poll. More polls than a strip club, people. Would you rest Saka against Southampton? I think this is a double-edged, or you could even play Nelson. This is a double-edged sword. I'll tell you why. Because part of me thinks, okay, Saka looks a little bit mentally fatigued more than physically. I don't think it's physical. He's playing one game a week. I think it could be mental fatigue. But on one hand, do you use Southampton at home as the game to play him back into form? You're playing against the worst team in the league. It's at home. Are you trying to get him, into the swing of things for that Manchester City game on Wednesday? Or do you think you've got to take him out of the team, start Trossard on the right or whoever, and give him that break? He shouldn't be tired. We're out of Europe. We've been out, he didn't play a lot of the early group games in Europe. We went out of the Carabao Cup quick, the FA Cup quick. Where is the tiredness coming from? He's 21 years of age. He should not be tired. He's not going to bench him. He's absolutely 100 million % going to start that game tomorrow. There's no way on earth he's going to drop him. But my question is more to the community. Would you take him out? I think that sometimes you've got to actually drop a player to let him know that he can be dropped. I think you're creating, you're mollycoddling him a little bit by showing him that, don't worry, Saka, mate, you can have stinkers and you'll play. I think that's the wrong message to send to any player, let alone a young player. I personally, I would rest him. I would rest him because I think he's had a couple of bad games. He missed a penalty, which you can miss a penalty, but it did cost us. And his all-round performance, I think, against Liverpool and West Ham was not good enough, in my opinion. I would bring him out of the firing line, and maybe you bring him on for the last 30, 40 minutes. Because I think it then shows him that, listen, as much as you're a big player for this club, you're going to sign a 200 grand a week contract, and we love you here. This is Arsenal Football Club, and Arsenal is bigger than any player. We've seen that over the years. We've lost superstars. We're not going to lose Saka, of course, but I've got to show him that we've got Trossard here now, bro. You can get dropped if you're not performing. You're not guaranteed to play right wing. However, everything I'm saying here, I don't think it means anything because he'll start tomorrow. Now, on the flip side, if he does start tomorrow against Southampton, they're bottom of the league. They're not that good. Saka has to perform. You're at home. I'm sure the manager will show him faith by starting him again. We want to see a performance from Saka tomorrow. A goal, an assist, something like that. And go into that Manchester City game in high spirits and high confidence. So, for me, that is the team that will start. It's the same team that played against West Ham. As I said, I think Saka will play. Holding will play, in my opinion. And it sounds as if Zinchenko is struggling to be fully fit. I think the problem with Mikel Arteta dropping Saka is this. I'll tell you what the problem is. Arteta will want Saka. Arteta will want Saka to start away at Manchester City, because he's been one of our biggest players, right? So he won't want him to not play against Man City. The danger for Arteta, if he drops him and Trossard comes in and has a stormer, how do you then drop Trossard against Manchester City? So you're playing yourself into a difficult situation. So I think Saka will start tomorrow. He will use Southampton as a game to try and play him back into form, to try and score a goal, get an assist, and have him ready for the Man City game. But listen, it's a good problem to have. It is a good problem to have. Show the table. Don't worry, I'm going to show that. Sakin said rotation is essential for a young player developing. That's optimal management, 100%, especially when they hit, situations where the form's not as good. Is it fatigue? Whatever the problem is, give him a break. He may benefit from the break. He played both games for England during the international break as well. He hasn't had a lot of a break. Psychologically, maybe it's weighing on him. The Premier League table, final thing before we get out of here. Disappointing that we haven't got the 5 ticks no more. for the 5 wins in a row. As you can see, Aston Villa and Man City are the 2 informed teams in the Premier League. 5 wins out of their last 5 games. However, we have gone unbeaten in our last 7. 5 wins and 2 draws. It's tight there. If we win tomorrow, 6 games left, 7 points clear of Manchester City. They will have 2 games in hand, but I would always rather have the points in the bag, you know, than the games in hand. And it creates some sort of pressure on Pep and Man City going into that game on Wednesday. And listen, Unai, by the way, just quickly on Unai, I'm actually delighted for him. I felt he was a good manager. I think he struggled at Arsenal due to the fact, number one, he didn't get the players that he asked for, and number two, his inability, you know, his difficulties with speaking English and communicating. I've always felt Unai was a good manager. I'm actually delighted for him that he's doing so well at Villa. I'd love to see him get European football. But in terms of Arsenal, we all know psychologically as fans, we've got one eye on that Manchester City game on Wednesday, but we have to handle business tomorrow. We can't afford any kind of slip-up. And we're 7 goals behind City. It would be nice to close that gap. Could we score 4 or 5 tomorrow and get that a little bit closer? And, you know, you never know. It could come down to goal difference. But Wednesday is, you know, that game is just huge beyond belief for Arsenal, how big that game is. And just looking beyond that slightly, we have a very, very difficult run of fixtures in the next 4 or 5. I mean, Southampton tomorrow. After that, Manchester City on Wednesday. The following Tuesday, Chelsea at home. The following weekend, Newcastle away. And then the week after that, Brighton at home. It's a very difficult run. This is the run that will make or break our title. This next 5 games, you will know if Arsenal are going to win the league or not. Southampton, Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton. If we get out of that run still top of the league and we're level on games with City, I believe we will win the title. If we don't, then we don't, you know. So I think for me, I think we've got to win every single one of them. I think you could probably afford to draw to Man City. I think you can draw to City, you've got to win the other 4. I think you've got to beat Newcastle, you've got to beat Chelsea, you've got to beat Brighton, you've got to beat Southampton. And the City game, you can afford a draw, in my opinion. Obviously, if we beat Man City, it's just unbelievable. So, Southampton, bottom of the Premier League, no excuses. It's a must-win game. Whole upset, if we win against Man City, we win. That's how I see it, but I'll take a draw. I just hope the team go there, though, with the mindset that don't go there thinking I'll take a draw. Because often when you aim for a draw, you get beat. Aim for the victory. If you don't get the victory and you draw, we'll take that. You offer me a draw against Man City right now, I'd take it. If you said, look, we can draw the game, we'll cancel it. I'd say, all right, lock it off. I'll take the point. I'd take a draw because it keeps us in control and we've got rid of that City game. But ultimately, I expect us to go there and try and beat them. Be positive. Go for them. They drew at home to Everton. They lost at home to Brentford. I think it's an unbelievable Man City team. I don't think it's the best Man City team I've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. I think there are vulnerabilities in that back 4. And we need to go for them. But it's an extremely tough game. I think we'll beat Southampton. I'm going for a 3-0 win. I'm going for a 3-0 win. I think we'll bounce back. I think if we score early, Southampton will crumble. Hopefully we don't concede a stupid goal. Keep James Ward-Prowse off set pieces. We know how dangerous he can be. But I'm going for a 3-0 win against Southampton tomorrow, people. So hopefully we collect the 3 points. Listen, people, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, it's been a great show. Thank you for your interaction. Let me just end that poll. 61% of you would rest Saka for the game against Southampton. 39% say no and play him. So that's interesting. I don't think there's any doubt, though, that he will be playing, but it'll be interesting. A lot of you going for wins, 4-1, 2-0, 1-0. I hope it's a lot easier than that. I do not want to see a 1-0. We need a clean sheet. Let's close up that goal difference, man, on City. We're 7 behind them. Can we get 3, 4, 5 goals tomorrow and prove our point? Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, don't forget, members stream at 4 o'clock today. The link will be on the community page about 10, 15 minutes before. Get yourself in. Let me know the topic of conversation. Do you think Arsenal will win the Premier League this season? And I'll be back tomorrow for the watch along. I may do a show in the day if there's enough news to talk about. Otherwise, I'll be back 7 o'clock tomorrow. Arsenal against Southampton. Watch along. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, people. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all soon, people. Bless.